Hello everyone and welcome to episode 57 of Generation GC. My name is Molly Hudelson and as always I'm your host as well as the editor, producer, and creator of this show. Today we're going to be talking about Leech from Generation RX, Good Charlotte's 7th and most recent album released in 2018, and this one features Sam Carter of Architects. My guest today is Tiffany Kobb. Last week we talked about Stray Dogs from Youth Authority, and next week we'll be talking about a song from Good Charlotte. Tiffany Kobb is a writer from the Detroit area. They love reading, road trips, and spending time with family and friends. Tiffany's favorite pastimes include losing at trivia to their roommate. By the way, their roommate is Ashley Rayburn, who was on episode 14 of the show talking about anxiety, cuddling with their two fur children, and studying LGBT film. I am so happy that I was able to have Tiffany on the show today. I've been in touch with them for a long time now about trying to get them on the show, and I think y'all are really going to enjoy this conversation. Big shout out, by the way, to Architects, who recently released their new album, For Those That Wish to Exist. I'm sure if you follow any member of Good Charlotte on social media, I'm sure you've seen them post about the album. But yeah, I definitely encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. I think my favorite track is Giving Blood, but the album's great. I love it. I wanted to say that I love having guests from all around the world on Generation GC, and I want to have guests from all different backgrounds and from all different life experiences on the show. My goal is that everyone who listens to this show can feel that they and their life experiences are represented. So if English isn't your first language, that's okay. As long as you're comfortable holding a conversation in English, then you're good to go. So yeah, if anyone is interested, if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, wow, I would love to come on Generation GC and talk about my life experiences and how I relate to Good Charlotte, hell yeah. Send me an email, generationgcpod@gmail.com, or reach out on socials, Generation GC Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'll talk, we'll connect, and we will see what we can do, and we'll make it happen. I also wanted to remind everyone to please visit blacklivesmatters.card.co and antisemitism.card.co to continue learning more about Black Lives Matter and anti-Semitism. It's so important to continue educating ourselves throughout the year. Also, Generation GC has a Facebook group. You're going to look up Generation GC Fam on Facebook and join. There's a couple questions there. Make sure you answer the questions and agree to the group rules, and then I will add you to the group. It's fun. We'll hang out. We'll talk. We'll get to know each other. Another reminder. Wow, so many reminders, so many notices today. Generation GC is turning 1 year old on April 15th. April 15th, 2020, episode 1 on Little Things with Gina Catalano went live. And on April 15th, 2021, we're going to be having a birthday party. It'll be on Zoom. We will bake brownies together. I will read some selections from the book Good Charlotte that the band are named after. We can chat about it. But mostly it'll be an opportunity for us to hang out, to have a good time, to talk about Good Charlotte, and hopefully bond and connect. Finally, Generation GC stickers are here. If you do want stickers, there's two things you can do. Number 1, you can support the show on Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/generationgcpod and click support. Anything that does come into this show through the support as well as through sponsorship ad reads, that all goes right back into making the show the best it can be. It helps me get the equipment that I need, and it also helps me print and ship stickers. For reference, this batch of stickers cost me about $35, including shipping, and that was shipping to my apartment, and then of course it's additional to ship stickers out to everyone who wants them. Number 2, you can make a charitable donation. I'm going to continue encouraging everyone to donate to No Kid Hungry or your local food bank. I was pretty excited to see that a $10 donation to No Kid Hungry can help provide meals for up to 100 kids, which is incredible. That's such a huge difference. So whether you're donating goods or donating money, so many people can use that right now, and whatever you're able to give makes such a huge difference. So you are going to take a screenshot of either your support of the show on Anchor or your charitable donation, and you are going to send that to me along with your mailing address, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or email generationgcpod@gmail.com. And yeah, then I will send you stickers. Also, make sure you're just keeping up on socials because occasionally I'll just post other opportunities that y'all can take up on, whether that's to opportunities to promote the show or other opportunities to make a difference in the world. That can also help you earn some stickers. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and now on to episode 57.
Okay, so we are talking about Leech today. Leech is track 7 on Generation RX, Good Charlotte's 7th album released in 2018. Track 6 is Cold Song. Track 8 is Better Demons. This song was written by Benji and Joel Madden and Zach Cervini, who produced the album. Sam Carter of Architects does feature on the song. It seems like it was a little confusing to me whether Sam came up with the bridge, whether he wrote it, or whether he just sang it. I don't know. Sam isn't credited as a writer, but let me read this quote from an interview with Upset Magazine that the twins did. It's a great interview, and we've referenced this interview before on the show. So in the interviewer asked, "You got Sam Carter to sing on that song. How did that come about?" Joel says, "That was my dream come true. He's just the best. I kind of revere Architects as a band." Joey Simran at Madden is their manager, and we were just shooting the shit one night as Leech wasn't finished. We didn't know what to do with the bridge. It was the very last bit on the record. Joey knew that we wouldn't ask Sam, but he sent it to him and he jumped on it. Benji said that when he first played the song for people, his face was red, but I'm getting more comfortable with it, and I think I'm getting okay with it because, Sam Carter felt it and loved it. That gave me a little more confidence with it. Joel said he cut his vocal in Brighton and sent it over. It's a little too short for me. I wish he had sung over the rest of the song because I love his voice. I believe that Architects are blazing trails, one of the most important bands in this business. They are doing it for a higher purpose than just trying to be successful. We will wait until a little later on the show to say what Sam Carter has said about Good Charlotte. But y'all, if you follow either of the twins on socials or frankly anyone in the band over the past few years, chances are you've seen them post about Architects. In an interview with Music in Minnesota, Billy talked about how much they all love Architects and they've become friends with Sam over the years. And, they left the part open in the song and it felt natural to have him come sing. Benji also did a great interview with a website called Rock Your Life. That's a French website. So Benji is just talking about how long he's known Joey and how long he's worked at Madden and everything. And he says that Architects was already one of my favorite new bands and that their last few albums made them so huge. And Benji said that it is a very exciting perspective to watch them as a fan than to work with them. I really enjoyed both sides of my relationship with them. Very cool. Also referenced, this is a fun fact that I just discovered. Musica Children's Choir, the musical youth of California, appears in the song on, I think it's the final chorus. So they were also on Better Demons. There's I'll have to share this on socials, a post on their website of some pictures of the kids conducted by Dr. Stan Grund, who worked with Zach Cervini to record the vocals at the Madden Studios in Burbank. Just a little bit about Musica. I don't want to go too deep down a rabbit hole, but I thought this was so cool. So it's a children's choir featuring children ages 4 to 18 in Los Angeles. Founded in 2010, and their mission is to provide the highest quality of music education to children and youth of all religious, ethnic, cultural, and economic backgrounds through study and performance of outstanding choral repertoire. Musica is dedicated to diversity, access, and service to the community, and they are a 501c3 nonprofit. And just a little more about them, that these students receive instruction in proper vocal production and performance techniques. They study music theory and acquire skills in oral perception and musicianship. I thought that was so cool. I was so happy to actually learn a little bit about the choir on this song.
Yeah, I freaking love that.
Yeah, that was so cool. It's somehow, and we've done an episode on Better Demons already, but I guess that information just didn't come up in my research for that one. So that was so fun to learn. Was not a single, no radio play, but I only saw, what's funny to me is in my mind, they played this song all the time. But I only saw one record of it being played live at Alexander Palace in London, February of 2019. There is a video online, and of course, Sam Carter does join them. And I did find a couple of reviews that talked about this show. So Dead Press said, after a couple of speeches from frontman Joel Madden about the importance of tonight's show for them as a band, we're treated to a hair-raising live debut of Leeches with Sam Carter of Architects, making a nice surprise cameo on vocals, as is on the record. And then Live Nation TV said that this was the highlight of the evening. So that was pretty cool. It's so funny to me because I definitely thought in my mind this song had been played a bunch of times, but like definitely it hasn't.
No, definitely not. And some of my friends, I think, were at that show in London, and I was so jealous.
I watched the video. It was incredible. Like, so cool.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to talk about regarding Leech, but Tiffany, I really want to help our guests get to know you. So the first question I like to ask people is, when did you first hear Good Charlotte, and what were your first thoughts on them?
It was either late 2001 or early 2002. I can't quite remember, but I was at my cousin's house, and so it was before, like, it was like during like the self-titled album. So
okay.
So she shows me like we used to do this thing where we would talk about our favorite bands, and then we would like go online and search like GeoCities.
Yep.
And we would search like all the fan sites and everything. And
oh yeah.
And we would search for like every single ounce of information we could find. So,
I'm just nodding. Yeah. I get it. I did the same thing.
So like, she showed me them, like she was like, oh, there's this new band, and so she showed me pictures of them, and she showed me like information about them, and I don't actually remember listening to the music, but I know she showed me the CD, so we must have listened to them, but I don't remember what we listened to. So like my first impression of their music I don't really remember, but my first impression of like them as a band, I was like, they're so cool. Like Benji had his pink patch, like
oh yeah. Oh so, god, that like, pink patch. Woo!
Yeah, I know. And so it was like just like a first impression of the band in general was like, oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and then a few months later, I saw the premiere of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, because like it was probably obviously after like it premiered on TRL or whatever, but like it was like 6 o'clock in the morning when I first saw it, and I was like, oh my god, that's Good Charlotte. And I was like, oh, and then that's when like I started really like getting into them.
I love that. So it was a turning point. So another question I like to ask people is, have you ever seen Good Charlotte live?
Yes, I've seen them probably like 23 times.
Amazing. I love that. So Tiffany, in our chats, I mean, the way we connected was initially through your roommate, Ashley Rayburn, who was on the show last summer talking about anxiety. How did you and Ashley meet? Like, did you and Ashley meet because of Good Charlotte, or did that just happen to be like a coincidence?
No, we met because of Good Charlotte.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, we met at a fan website, and then we actually met at a Good Charlotte show on it was May 13th on my grandma's birthday in 2005. And that we had planned to meet up that day, and we like gave all of our information. We did it the safe way.
Yeah.
We gave all of our information, like, I look like this, I'm going to be wearing this, but we were in public and everything, and
yeah,
that's the day that we met.
Amazing. So you and Ashley, you go way back, so you've had a lot of time to kind of experience the world of Good Charlotte together.
Oh, absolutely.
That's incredible. I love that so much. Well, you also mentioned in your bio to me that we heard in the intro, your love of road trips. So I would just love to know, like, what are some of your favorite road trips that you've taken?
In 2008, I went to California with my sister, and she was moving from California back to Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And And so we went to move all her stuff into storage because her husband was in the Navy at the time. And so he was going to be staying in California. So we moved all the stuff that was in the house into storage, and then we drove the car from California to Michigan. And that was such a fun trip. We stayed in some of the weirdest, like, seediest motels. Yep. We got to see, like, all the beautiful sights that you get to see through, like, Utah and Colorado. So, like, that was really fun. And then one of my other favorite ones was we went to Fairfax, Virginia to see Good Charlotte. Me, Ashley, Kelly, Alyssa, some of the people that have been on the show. And we drove from Michigan to Virginia. And I was up, I think, for 32 hours or something.
Oh my God.
Because I can't sleep in the car when people are driving. So, like, I was up the whole time they were driving, which it didn't take that long for them to drive, obviously, but I had been up previously for whatever reason. I don't remember. I think I had been working. I think what happened was I had been working. I had came home, and then we went to the show. So it was like I had stayed. So you had
like a full work day and then like a crazy long drive.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So that was like, but that show was fantastic. It was so great. It was amazing. I loved it.
That sounds fantastic. Well, I have to ask you, what would you say are the secrets to a successful road trip?
So I have written down snacks, tunes, and trivia.
Good. I like that. Great combo. Okay, favorite road trip snack?
Honestly, probably just like almonds. It's weird, but
almonds?
Yes.
I've been really enjoying chocolate covered almonds lately because it's like a little chocolate, but it's not like too much.
Almonds are my favorite nut. And chocolate covered almonds are the best.
So good. I also bought yesterday some chili lime peanuts, which were fantastic. Yes, they were absolutely delightful. So we had talked, Tiffany, and I always see you, post on the internet just about your love of LGBT film and media. So I would love to know, I guess it's a two-part question. What are just some of your favorites and some that you think people should watch, even if they're like, oh, I really haven't explored any LGBT media or film at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just have to ask, do you know if there are any notable LGBT films that have a Good Charlotte song in them?
I'll answer the second one first. I love that question because I was like, oh, I don't think so. So I couldn't name any off the top of my head. And I looked it up on TuneFinder or whatever it is. And I did not find anything that has like that was LGBT related.
Okay, but I had to ask.
I wish there was. And then some of my favorite ones, obviously I feel like everyone should watch Love, Simon.
Okay, everyone. That's great. Yeah, it's great.
If you want to introduce your kid to like LGBT movies, that's the one to go for. And then along with that, there's a Dutch film. I think it's a Dutch film. And it's called Jongens. So it's boys, if you want to look it up in English. And then two of my favorites are God's Own Country and Moonlight.
Okay. Cool. So I've seen Love, Simon. I haven't seen any of the others, but Love, Simon is so great. And the soundtrack to that was really good.
Oh, it's so fantastic.
Yeah. So one more question before we head into our discussion about Leech. I had to ask this. So Tiffany, you and I have talked about Degrassi, and this did come up on one of the Instagram lives that I did last year, but it had to come up on the podcast at some point. So I got to know, which Degrassi characters do you think would be good Charlotte fans?
Okay, so I have definitely, I think Ellie and Ashley.
Oh yeah.
Would be I think maybe Jane as well.
I think especially Jane with like her experience with her father and everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, would grab onto that.
I think Eli would pretend not to, but I think he would secretly like them.
Oh, 100%. That's exactly what I said too. Yeah.
But I was talking to Ashley about it last night, and she said he would definitely be a My Bloody Valentine and a
Yes.
Ghost of You fan.
Oh yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And then I think Sav would be a diehard Good Morning Revival defender.
Oh yes. Yes.
So like he might not listen to Good Charlotte like as like a thing that he always does, but he would like defend Good Morning Revival to the end.
I love that so much. I had in my notes that Sav and I don't know why I pictured this grouping in my head, but I had in my notes that Sav and Adam would go to a Good Charlotte show together somehow. I think I am 100% with you on Eli. I think Claire might like play a song for him and that might get him to admit it. I think Craig might be a Good Charlotte fan just because like he is like sensitive and emo and everything.
My only thing with Craig though is that I feel like he would maybe be a little like, oh, they're too mainstream for me.
I know. I thought about that too. Like Craig would like love The Young and the Hopeless, I think. Like he'd like the first 2 records. But I think even by the time Chronicles came out, he would be like, yeah, I don't know. I did also have to mention Toby. I don't know if Toby would, but Jake Goldsby, who played Toby, has a podcast called Columbia House Party that talks all about like emo and alternative music. So maybe Jake Goldsby is a Good Charlotte fan.
Maybe.
I also have it in my head that Frankie, I don't know if you watched Next Class, but I have it in my head that Frankie would have gotten super into them and tried to like kind of dress like them when she was trying to impress Jonah. And then Jonah would probably say something condescending about how like they're not even really punk.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into the Next Class, so I don't know much about that.
Yeah, I just, well, there is a scene in Next Class, this doesn't really spoil anything, where Frankie buys anti-flag tickets for Jonah to like impress him. And he's like, what do you mean you're an anti-flag fan? Because she's so like not like that. Yeah. Well, let's go on to our discussion about Leech. So, Tiffany, we were talking on Twitter about having you come on the show. Why did you want to talk about Leech in particular?
Okay. In 2017, my dad passed away. Mm-hmm. And then in 2018, almost a year to the day, my stepdad passed away.
Oh, wow.
So like when I listened to Leech, it like hit a nerve. My dad and my stepdad both were addicts. And like, I felt like, of course, I definitely, as growing up, like I definitely locked my dad like out of my life. Mm-hmm. And because he had been in rehab until I was 10. And it wasn't necessarily that I took like it that personally necessarily, but like afterwards he had gotten remarried and there was all that, other stuff that goes along with that. So like it just, this song is one of my favorites on the album. And honestly, Generation RX is one of my favorite Good Charlotte albums. Like that's like, it's honestly probably either number 1 or number 2 on my list.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, like Generation RX is like my absolute like favorite Good Charlotte album.
I feel like, well, thank you for sharing that about your dad and everything. And I could imagine how, like, even if it wasn't personal, that would just make it difficult to feel like you formed a connection, like a bond.
Right.
I think something that is like maybe a little unique about Good Charlotte among honestly kind of a lot of other bands of that era is like, like I don't want to name names, but so many other like kind of early 2000s-ish pop punk and emo bands, people like love the first 2 records and then they lost interest. And I feel like Good Charlotte has a lot of fans that like love their new stuff.
Yeah. That's actually what happened with a lot of like the pop punk bands I used to listen to. I would listen to, whatever what came out in 2006 or whatever, but then I never listened to anything later.
Yeah. it's like, and there's definitely like, I definitely have a few bands like that too. And like, I discover new music all the time. I'm always like listening to, I put on my Discover Weekly on Spotify or different artist radio or whatever. Like I love finding new stuff, but I don't know. You just like, sometimes it's with those bands like you. So I think for me, sometimes there's records that like I associate with a specific time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, maybe I'm like, oh, I kind of forgot that they did other things before or since then.
Right.
So, Tiffany, I want to talk about what this song means. So, first, I would just love to hear like your interpretation of Leech.
I don't know if you're ready for this.
whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
My easy answer is like generational trauma and childhood trauma. Gave me your demons. You weren't around. You were too late. Left in a dark room to figure it out. Like those are the things that I pick up on. And also about poverty. I got, because like Born to the Leeches are like the lowest of low. Poverty makes you feel like you're the lowest of low. It feels like you're never good enough. And that actually leads into like my big hypothesis of like what Leech and Generation RX stand for in general, which I kind of have talked about this before, but Leech ties in with other songs on the album, like Prayers and Better Demons, like a criticism of like performative Christianity within like the white supremacist United States. So like, even though there's not like necessarily overt Christianity symbols, there's like, the reference to hell, the reference to demons, the reference to vultures, because vultures were like, at least in my memory of Christianity, of like the books that I was taught in Christianity, vultures were a thing, like a symbol in the books. I don't remember exactly what it was, but so like to like tie that all together, I always like think of like the nuclear family and how like the nuclear family is like the legacy of capitalism, and then like the legacy of like the product of capitalism is trauma. Like that's how I think of it.
Yes. I am so glad you said the word generational trauma, because I like, as I was putting my notes together, that like I was like looking for a phrase. And I'm like, yes, that's the phrase I was looking for, generational trauma. And I think that's a really good point about poverty too, because I mean, in like the early records, so much of the early, like the first record was about just wanting to make it big. And I think from like this song, it's very clear that it's not like some self-absorbed ego thing so much as like, no, they like came from poverty and they wanted money. Like,
oh, absolutely.
They wanted to be able to take care of themselves, take care of their families.
People who aren't born into poverty or who haven't experienced poverty don't understand the toll it takes on like the person in poverty. Yeah.
I can't even imagine, I definitely like came from a relatively privileged background for sure. And I can't even imagine like just the struggles and like how that would affect you.
Yeah. I have more experience with it. I'll talk about it a little bit more about, because it relates to some of the other questions that you ask. So I'll talk a little bit more about it eventually. Yeah. But
I think something else I want to say that I interpreted from this song, both from the chorus and then from the bridge, was, that the narrator of this song is saying they had such an awful and damaging relationship with their father that like, even though their mother was like loving and caring, she couldn't save them.
Right.
And that, maybe you can like reconnect or like repair a relationship, but like some traumas just like leave a lasting mark. Like they just do.
Yep.
And like some wounds may close, but they don't necessarily heal.
Right.
I not to like too much go down a rabbit hole, but just very brief rant here is that I feel like there's like I see a lot of push for people to, you know, repair relationships and like reconnect with old friends and like stay friends with exes and all that kind of stuff. And like,
Oh, absolutely.
which like, if you can do that, fine. But like, it is so perfectly okay. And it's completely healthy that like to not reconnect with someone if that's what's right for you. And if you do want to reconnect with someone, that's also okay, you know, but there's no like right or wrong way.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because like my dad was like a really conservative person, and so is my stepdad. It's like I don't know why my mom goes for conservative men, but she does. And it's like I am like the antithesis of everything that like my dad stood for. So I'm like queer, and I'm like non-binary, and I'm like a feminist, and so like I didn't like try to get closer to my dad before he passed. And I do feel a little like I did definitely feel when he first died like oh, I lost my chance, you know, like to get closer to him or like to reconcile or whatever. But now that he has passed, I kind of have made that peace with like his, like, I guess with our distance or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess that there's something positive that came out of it.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, getting that peace is really huge. Like, that's kind of all you can ask for, I think. So I wanted to share a little of the backstory that I found about this song. So again, in that interview with Upset Magazine, so the interviewer asked if songs like Leech were going to be hard to perform live. Benji said, I had no idea what I was writing about when I wrote that song, but when I stepped back, it's about my childhood. It's about my relationship with my parents. It's about some traumas and neglect and different things that we dealt with. It's about poverty, and it just started coming out of me. And Joel talked about, you know, doing the meet and greets and hearing fans relate to the songs gives him confidence, and hearing people sing along on stage, you know, really helps that as well. So yes, you know, I think Tiffany, what you had to say about the song was like entirely on point.
Hey.
Yeah. And then in the interview with Rock Your Life, again, Benji is talking about Leech, and he said, man, it's heavy. It's about my childhood. It's about coming clean. I didn't want to finish it because it was way too personal, but Zach told me that I had to finish the song because he felt related to it. I think something I just wanted to touch on is just the idea of like Benji saying that I had no idea what I was writing about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you ever feel this way in anything like creative or just anything you do, but I've certainly felt this way in some things like I've written, like poetry and stuff, for example, where like you just write something and it just like spills out of you, like vomits out sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to kind of take a step back to like actually realize what it's about. And I think like for me personally, that can be like really helpful. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like the poem. So I put out a book, I Told You I Hated New York, centered around a poem called I Told You I Hated New York. And it was like incredibly healing to look at the poem as a piece of art and not just these are my thoughts and feelings. Like it made it like it was like, oh, okay, it's like valid to say what I say because I like made art.
So you like distancing yourself from the art.
Yeah, like it kind of allowed me to I feel like distance in a way, and to kind of like get things off my chest in a sense. Like to kind of go from, okay, this is just like a thing in my mind. Well, let me like express what I feel in a certain way. And I don't have to have it just like weighing on me anymore. And it seems like that's, in a sense, kind of what they related to in terms of writing this song.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to talk about Architects and Good Charlotte again. So we did talk earlier about, what the members of Good Charlotte have said about Architects. But I also wanted to talk about something Sam has said. So first of all, if anyone watched the Live in London documentary video, I believe it's still on YouTube, but Sam joins the band on stage. I think it was for The River. Yeah, it was The River because, yeah. And he had like a really sweet talking head talking about just like how, like skipping school to see Good Charlotte and all that. It was very,
relatable.
Yeah, right. And then he made a really sweet post on Instagram. So I just want to read what he said. He says, in 2004, me and a couple of friends took the day off school and traveled up early to O2 Academy, Brixton, to go and see our favorite band at the time, Good Charlotte. We sat outside the venue from early in the day, hoping to catch a glimpse of the band. That night, we sang our hearts out, wearing our Level 27 and Made shirts, and left feeling so inspired and happy with what we had just seen. Flash forward to 2018, and not only was I good friends with the band, I was singing on stage with them at the very same venue that had given me the drive and inspiration. A few months later, I was singing on their latest record, Never Give Up, Follow Your Dreams and Give It Everything You've Got, and Don't Listen to Anyone But Yourself. All my love to Good Charlotte, Joel Madden, Benji Madden, and Madden Co. for being the best. And I love these comments so much. So Benji commented, I love you, with a bunch of crying emojis and black hearts.
It's so adorable.
Yep. And then Joel commented a bunch of black hearts, and you sing in one of my all-time fave bands. And I just like hearing that seeing that comment from Joel, I'm just like trying to picture what Sam Carter like would be feeling at that point. Like, how incredible is it that like your favorite band says that like you are their favorite band?
That would be so insane.
It's so insane. So insane. Like, incredible. Validating, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I can imagine, honored. Like, that's so great. That's so great. Did you have any, like, other specific memories or stories that you wanted to share about Leech?
Actually, yes.
Cool.
So,
do it.
In 2018, on September 13th, I went into the hospital, and I was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh my God.
So I was in the hospital on the day that the album came out. So I didn't get to listen to it until like 3 days later, I think, because I think I was in the hospital for 3 days. So it might have been 2 days later. And so my first memory of actually listening to the song is me and Ashley, we went to either Tim Hortons or CVS to pick up my medicine. I don't know. It might have been both. So she put on the album and we drove around and listened to it. And this song came on and the intro hit. And then like Born to the Leeches, I was like, oh my God. And I just remember I was sitting through this album I had shivers, like I goosebumps all over my body. And I just remember like feeling after the diagnosis, I just remember feeling like I could actually manage to make it through this. So like, and I shared the story with like the boys in one of our meet and greets, and it was like such a great experience to like have their like support and like it was just so nice. But like to have this album come out and then have that experience, like I'll never like forget like that moment of listening to this album and feeling like, okay, I can make it. Like, it's okay. I got this.
I mean, that's, thank you for sharing that. That's, that's like a big, heavy thing. And I can definitely see how, like, just hearing an album and not just hearing like the new album from your favorite band, but like the album being one that, so closely relates to a lot of like your own life experiences. Like, that's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, and speaking of generational and trauma, Like that's how I felt, I guess. That's how I feel now. Like looking back at it, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really, I love that. And I'm so glad that, like, you know, when you got out of the hospital, you were able to like just listen to this right away.
Yeah. It was nice to have that, like, something to look forward to.
Yeah. That's really special. I like to talk about other Good Charlotte songs a track relates to. And, you know, they obviously have a lot of songs that talk about family issues as well as songs that are critical of religion and stuff. Prayers is a good example there.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Specifically, one that comes to mind for me is Predictable, which I don't remember if they ever confirmed was about, you know, like family or their dad or anything, but to me, like, I put that comparison because that's Predictable is also a song, I think, about how childhood experiences can affect you later on in life. Like, if people in your youth, you know, acted a certain way, if they left, if they neglected you, like, you're always, you may end up with like attachment issues going on. And not to say that like any of the boys in the band have attachment issues, but the, you know, early life experiences like absolutely can continue to affect the way you move through the world, I guess is the way to put that.
Yeah, definitely.
I also mentioned Wounded, even though I don't feel like that's directly about like their upbringing or anything, so much as kind of the idea, and I feel like this sounds self-deprecating, but just kind of the idea of like looking at yourself and feeling like, oh, I'm like damaged and kind of fucked up in whatever ways.
Yeah, like, because it's also like, I mean, they have like in Leech, you know, it says, hold on, let me find the lyrics so that I can get it correct. Yeah, like, you could never treat these wounds how long they've been open. So like wounded perfectly.
Yeah. I almost wonder if that was like an intentional reference. It could be.
Yeah, for sure.
Could be. And then also on this record, Better Demons, although that, you know, kind of depends how you look at things, but I think, I mean, a lot of this record talks about just how kind of early life experiences, I think, can like affect the way you see yourself and the way you move through the world. But
absolutely. Better Demons for sure came to mind. Oh yeah. For me, I, for some reason, In This World, from Chronicle.
Expand.
I get this like, because like for, I guess with my interpretation of it being about poverty and about capitalism being, you know, the product of capitalism being trauma and stuff like that. Like, I felt like In This World, like, it has the same kind of thematic.
Okay, yeah. That's a good point. That's a really good point. Definitely. I mean, it definitely does. And in this world, all of our sins are simple, but you step over innocent lives. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. Well, I want to talk about what some critics have said about the song. So Wyatt and Lindsay React on YouTube. So I hadn't heard of this channel before, and it kind of seems like mostly they focus on like heavier stuff and like metal. So it would explain why I'm not really familiar. But like this channel, they have 238,000 subscribers. This video has like 10,000 views. It's about a year old. So like, that's pretty sick. People like what they're saying, and I liked what they're saying too. I really liked this format of doing it.
I watched this video actually before you sent me the you sent me the notes, and because I was just looking up stuff like randomly, and I saw this video and I was like, oh my gosh, I actually love this.
Yeah. So to go over this video, so both Wyatt and Lindsay were saying, you know, Good Charlotte is close to their heart, and they actually pointed out, which I loved, that, you know, while their music in a lot of ways got lighter, they turned into like bikers, like in terms of like they showed photos, and they said they looked like badasses that looked like they sound like Motorhead or Pantera. And they both checked it out because the song features Sam Carter, and Wyatt was saying he learned to drum by playing over the Young and the Hopeless. So it was a cool format. So they talked about kind of their initial thoughts on Good Charlotte, and then they're like listening and reacting, and then they talked about it after. So like that was a really cool format. So they're both bopping along and loving it. And I think their big criticism was that Sam's part was pretty short, and they were loving they were loving what Sam was doing, but they wish it was longer, which is fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even Joel said that. So
and you know, Wyatt mentioned that he kind of grew into heavier stuff while Good Charlotte was getting lighter and poppier. But that he really loved the ending of the track and that he wanted to like get back into listening to them.
I hope he does.
I know. I hope he does. I hope he has since checked out this whole record.
I definitely think this is a good album for like if you're into heavier like metal stuff.
Yes.
For you to get back into Good Charlotte, I think this is like the best album.
Absolutely. I mean, they talked about, I think it was the Upset magazine interview where they talked about Linkin Park being an influence.
And I can definitely hear that in Leech in particular.
Yeah. Oh yeah, completely. Roxins said Leech features an appearance by Sam Carter of Architects fame in a brief but memorable cameo, and it's one of the heavier moments on the album, proving that Good Charlotte haven't lost sight of their roots. Cryptic Rock called it the synth-tastic edgy rocker. Punk News, I hate Punk News. Like there was like a group in like, you know, around 2010, 2013-ish, there was like a group of a handful of like alternative music sites, and like I think, I don't know, honestly, a lot of them were just like really dramatic, but like Punk News I think was one of them, and I was just like, anyway. So they gave the album a 2 out of 5, and they said Generation RX lives in the in-between. Mid-tempo pseudo ballads aren't the right fit. Good Charlotte can write giant hooks. Even here, each song has one. Prayers is a soaring song that just misses the mark. That and Leech would fit perfectly on Linkin Park's next album. Last album. Yeah. When the Horn Blows says the song is about being abandoned as a child and being forced to figure it all out on your own. And that it's a dark song devoid of a sense of hope, yet still cathartic in its anger. Love that. Distorted Soundbag gave the album 5 out of 10. And it is like their whole, I kind of skimmed through the whole review. It was like, it felt like it was long, but it kind of called into mind like, how do we choose ratings for an album? And like, honestly, I feel like critics never have agreed how you should choose the rating for an album. So they said not even Architects frontman Sam Carter, who makes a frankly bizarre cameo on Leech, can pull the album from mediocrity. The blend between both Joel and Sam sounds about as odd as you'd expect, especially when Good Charlotte have just spent the last 20 minutes sounding about as far away from metal as possible. If anything, the track tells the story of Generation RX. The endeavor is there, but the end product is lacking.
It's so weird when, like, I don't know. I don't get it.
What's just funny to me is, like, that whole, at least that section, didn't even sound like 5 out of 10. Like, it sounded like they just, like, really didn't like it.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I fully get the pressure to not give albums, like, super bad ratings. But yeah, I don't know. In my time of like reviewing albums, I did a handful of negative ones, but like mostly if I didn't like something, I just like wouldn't review it.
Yeah, I mean that's my take on it. It's like if I don't like it, I'm just like not going to talk about it. There was another video on YouTube that I found. Ooh. It was like he didn't, I don't know what his name was on there, but he didn't like have a ton of followers, I think, so that's maybe why it didn't show up at first, because I did like I scrolled a long time to find it. So, and he said like the same thing. It said like the endeavor there and the product is lacking. Like he said the same thing about it not seeming to go far enough. And I'm like, what these guys are talking about, like poverty and drug addiction and a familial trauma. Like, how deeper do they need to go?
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be people that like want to hear songs about that other people write about, you know, their trauma. And there's always going to be people that like don't want to hear songs about other people's trauma. Personally, I can't imagine a life in which I listen to music where people that isn't like personal and honest.
Right.
But, you know, okay.
We love vulnerability here.
Yes, exactly. We do love vulnerability. And like, if Good Charlotte wasn't like a vulnerable band, I don't think like definitely this podcast wouldn't be what it is, you know? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, gonna read a few YouTube comments. So, most of them were related to Sam Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Tamara, like I scrolled and scrolled. Tamara Alk said, "I'm a simple woman. I see Sam Carter. I listen immediately." Panther Blute said, "I only listen to this song because of the King of Black, Sam Carter." And John Paul Castello said, "Where is the black?" I get.
Okay, can you explain the black to me? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I'm gonna guess because there were a lot of comments about that. I guess that's a thing of like his singing style. You know what? We're gonna Google that real quick.
Okay, because I saw those comments too, and I was like, "What the hell is bleh?"
It kind of seems like sort of an in joke, not even an in joke so much as like they talk about themselves as like bleh.
Okay.
So Sam Carter has apparently since denounced the blech, saying, "I wish I'd never made that stupid noise." There's an article from Note to Scene that talks about this. For those unfamiliar with the British metal group's judicious use of the burly utterance over the years, look no further than the fan-made video toward the bottom of this post. A clip where YouTuber Nick Chernov goes through every Architect's blech in just over a minute. By the end, he tallies 18 of the menacing sounds among the band's discography. Now, however, it seems that Carter wishes he never voiced a blech in the first place, going by the musician's recent tweets. I'm gonna send this to you on Twitter so we can both respectively listen.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
I got it.
Yeah, I got it. I get it. I didn't specifically know what it sounded like. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of love it, but I love all those comments.
Like it. I don't mind it, but
yeah,
that's hilarious.
I think that's really funny. One other comment, Alexander Sokolov said, "Holy moly, this song makes me want to jump, shake my head, get on the stage, high five Benji, and go crowd surfing." Fuck yeah. We love a comment with like a story like that, you know? We love a story.
Come hang out, Alexander. Let's be friends.
So one review we're going to read from Amazon, and this was a user from Amazon from Germany, and I want to thank Nina McLaren for helping translate this review because I was getting a few different options. Listeners, you heard Nina McLaren on episode 49 talking about prayers, and I sent her, I was like, "Can you help me translate this sentence?" I messaged her on WhatsApp. "Can you help me translate this sentence, please? I'm getting different results." So here is a native German speaker translating this short review. This person gave the song 10 out of 10. "Pretty awesome song of Good Charlotte. Naturally modern and up to date again, still very punchy, and the feature is really good." She said the last part might translate as "the feature comes in really good." She kind of wasn't sure, but yeah. So there you go. Good Charlotte, GC, Waldorf, worldwide. Yeah. Well, thank you, Nina, for helping me translate that. if you haven't already, listeners, please check out episode 49 and hear Nina talk about prayers and all about, growing up in Germany and how Good Charlotte's fan base there has grown over the years. Well, Tiffany, how has Leech held up for you over time?
Honestly, I think it's still one of my favorite songs on Generation RX. So
yeah, good. I love it.
I mean, it's really hard to choose because there's so many good songs.
Yes, yeah. Especially, it's not like with the album as a whole, just having the timing it did for you. I'm sure.
Yeah.
What has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years, and how has that changed?
So originally, Good Charlotte, the reason I was so invested in their music was because of their story, really.
Yeah.
It's of course aligned with my story with my dad and everything. And when I was 13, my mom and my stepdad got divorced, and we became homeless and all that, the whole thing. So it was I experienced a lot of the same things that they experienced.
Yeah.
And so I really clung to their music as a lifeline to get me through my teenage years. And so I think I started getting more into queer artists. I started listening to Tegan and Sarah and the Clicks and stuff when I was 18. So I definitely grew a little bit away from Good Charlotte. Especially around the time that Good Morning Revival came out. I know a lot of people did when that came out. It's not that I didn't listen to them, because I definitely stuck with them through Good Morning Revival, and I definitely listened to Cardiology. I loved Cardiology. And then I think actually the hiatus helped me become a better fan. I don't know
how
if that
so?
makes sense. Because before I was so emotional, I was so emotionally attached to them, and it still is in a way. I still definitely cling to their music for emotional support, I guess. But now it's I appreciate what they're doing artistically. I appreciate what they're saying, and I appreciate how even though I didn't superly love Good Morning Revival, now I can look back and be fucking Good Morning Revival was a badass fucking.
Oh, see, you're like Sav. You're like Sav Bandari from Degrassi then.
Yeah, I can say I can look back and say that now, but back then I probably wouldn't have been right. Good Morning Revival is a badass fucking album because it's so poppy or whatever. But if you listen to Good Morning Revival, now I can be oh well, I can see what they were doing with the sarcasm and the pop versus what they're saying and all that. So I think that helped. I mean, also obviously my age probably helped with that as well.
Totally, yeah.
But still, I felt after the hiatus, I loved them in a different way. If that makes sense.
I get that. Yeah. I love that. Well, Tiffany, do you have any last words about Leech, about Good Charlotte, or about yourself?
Not in particular, but this episode is supposed to air on Ashley's birthday.
Oh my gosh, happy birthday, Ashley.
Yes, I just want to say happy birthday, Ashley. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful for Good Charlotte for bringing us together.
I love that. Oh my God, happy birthday, Ashley. Happy birthday, Ashley. And I'll send her a message when this goes up as well. Oh my God.
I thought it was so ironic that it was supposed to be airing on her birthday. I was oh my gosh, it's so perfect.
Yes, I love that so much. Tiffany, so I do a Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist where we include the song that's talked about on the show. I'll probably have to pull an Architects song too for reference here. And then I would love to get a recommendation for you, just anything you're enjoying lately.
Okay, I have 3. Is that too many?
Perfect. No, go for it.
Okay. So my first is Keenan Lonsdale, who plays Bram in Love, Simon. He released an album in 2020 called Rainbow Boy, and there's tons of songs. That whole album is fucking gold. But the song that I am going to suggest is Gay Street Fighter.
Okay.
And then there's a band that I found on Twitter called Action Adventure, and they're a pop punk band, but they are made up of like Black and brown people. So I love that. And then there is I don't know if this is like on Spotify or not. I don't know if he has but I found his video on YouTube, and his name is Mad Psy, and his song is called Boy Bi, Boybi. So so it's about him being bisexual, and this is how he came out to his mom with that song. So I thought that was super cute, and I loved it.
I love that. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much. Did you want to leave your socials for people to keep up with you?
I primarily use Twitter. I don't really use anything else.
Sure,
my name on there is Cobbler, K0BBLER. And it's the same on Insta if anyone wants to follow me on Insta, but I don't really use Insta anymore.
Perfect. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on the show. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Last week, we talked about Stray Dogs from Youth Authority. Next week, we'll be talking about a song from Good Charlotte. My name is Molly Hudelson. I've been your host. You can follow Generation GC at Generation GC Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can follow me, Molly, at M Hudelson on Twitter and Instagram. Please make sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, tell all your friends, spread the word. GC fam worldwide 2021. Thank you all for listening.